So he pinstriped his casket, and it's beautiful. And it's like, what a waste, because we're going to bury this thing. You know?
You've lost your son, you recently lost your brother. How do you even navigate this shit?
Being happy and moving on in an even better way to honor their memory.
He's a comedian, a philosopher. His name is Rodney Norman. It's the second time he's been on the show. We got a chance to do it in person this time. We just got finished here in Los Angeles, and he shared 2 new stories. If you missed the first episode with him, definitely go back and look up Rodney's episode on Dead Talks. This time we focused on the death of his brother, who passed recently after his battle with cancer, and also most recently, his daughter was diagnosed with cancer, which is stage 4, and he's not sure which way it's going to go. He's trying to remain optimistic, but we tapped into that at the end of this episode. I hope you enjoy this episode because Rodney is a national treasure. He's hilarious. He is incredibly brilliant in more ways than one that you're going to find out. I hope you enjoy this episode. And as usual, I hope you consider joining our Patreon for $5 a month. It helps me. It supports the show and my mission to make this full time, as you know. Let's get into it. I hope you enjoyed as always. And until next time.
But Rodney, thank you for being here. This is the second time you're on, first time face-to-face recording this. It's a big deal for me. The face-to-faces for me are always more fun. So I'm keeping an eye on that camera.
The first time nobody had heard of this, so it wasn't a big deal. But now that you're kind of important, I feel like I need to be your person.
Hey, I respect it.
Wasn't sure if you were going to have me or not. But.
Yeah, it's actually, I'm trying to think what number episode you were, but it was like in the middle of the pack, which is weird because now I've had 160 something episodes, so I've been doing it for a while. And so I want to say you're like in the middle of that range. And people really responded to your episode, so I'm excited to have you back. And I think anyone listening is going to be excited to hear you. So it's a little bit of we have some updates, correct? And what's going on in your life?
Yes.
I mean, what do you want to say?
People keep dying. And, and as prepared as you think you're for it, because you've experienced it before, it starts hitting closer and closer. You know what I mean? At first it's grandparents and maybe a parent, which is always, very, very traumatic. But it's, it's aunts, uncles, it's relatives you've never even met before that, that are passing away but now, my brother who was dealing with cancer for years, he got to the point, I don't know if we talked about him before, but he'd gotten to the point where he was going through chemotherapy. I went in and did the bone marrow transplant test to see if I was a match. I was. He was going to go through chemo, and then he was going to have a bone marrow. So I was getting ready for that, but they said, "Look, the chemo is going to kill you. So there's nothing we can do for you. Go home, put your affairs in order." And
wow, so they sent him off like that?
Yeah, I sent him off. They said he had 2-3 months at best.
How long ago was this?
This was in December of 2019.
2019.
And, so he goes home thinking, okay, it's over. Well, he goes home, he's off all the meds and all the cancer stuff, and he starts feeling better. He's like, well, I still have some time. So he planned his own funeral.
Wow.
Even went and bought a casket. And my brother's an artist, he does really incredible pinstripes and stuff. Our family raced cars all through our youth. And so some of his earliest artwork was pinstriping race cars.
No way.
And so he gets his casket and he's like, yeah, this is boring. Because, he's an artist at heart. He's always looking everything. He's always doing something artistic with everything. And so he pinstriped his casket. And it's beautiful. And it's like, what a waste, because we're going to bury this thing. But so what he did was his wife has a motorcycle. So he went and he painted the motorcycle to match the casket. So it's got the same designs and everything. So that when she goes and rides, it's like he's with her.
That's amazing.
Because it's one of the things they would do together is go ride the motorcycle. And so he goes and he gets his casket done and everything. And they're telling him 3 months. We were making arrangements. We were just kind of sitting around waiting for the moment. Well, 3 months goes by. He gained weight and he was feeling better. and feeling better and better. And I ended up taking him to back to Missouri and hang out with my mom for a couple weeks because he wanted to, I've got my sisters and my mom that live in Missouri. And so I took him and we went there. My sister opened a restaurant, and so he did some sign work for her. And yeah, it was just a cool chance to hang out with him.
Yeah.
And then he's still alive. We're like, what do we do? And so he just kept plugging along, and he got sick one time, and he went back into the doctor to, see what was going on. And they did some tests and everything. They said, it's just a little bronchitis. We'll take care of it with some things. And he goes, well, how's the cancer? And they're like, what? Well, I've got cancer. How's, is there any way you can? And they're like, wait, you don't have cancer.
What?
And so they went and they ran some more tests, and they go, no, you don't have cancer. He's like, I was sent home to die. So the doctor looked at the medical reports. Was like, oh, wow. Yeah. No, there's no cancer.
What happened? Just went away.
It just went away.
What?
And so it's like, okay. So he starts, putting his life back together. We're all just like, okay, well, I guess we're moving on. And so as time goes on, we ended up going on but he was still, sickly. I mean, he still had other issues, but me and him and my other older brother went on a fishing trip to Yellowstone, just as because we don't know when he's going to be gone. Mm. And it's weird, you have that thought of, this could be the last time. And in a kind of in a general sense. Mm-hmm. But when you know for sure that this could be that this could be it takes on a whole different feel, And so here we were just, three brothers out fishing in Yellowstone, and
it's a dream.
It was just, I remember like every moment of that, I think while you're there, you're taking notice of this is it. This is the last chance I'm going to have to do this with him, But you're still holding out because, every time he goes and gets tested, oh no, you're not. There's no cancer. And so then he goes. He started having some more symptoms and problems. He goes back in, and they said, "Yeah, you got cancer. You got this growth, but it's big, but it's pretty benign. So you should be, we should be able to manage this." And so as they were dealing with that, all of a sudden this other cancer started popping back in, and so they were having to treat that. So he went battling all through that, but they didn't want to put him back in chemo because every time they do, it just almost killed him.
It's had a negative effect on him.
Yeah. Just because chemo is just brutal. I mean,
chemo isn't it just destroying everything? It's not isolated like wherever your cancer is. It's kind of just destroying everything. It
just kills. It just wipes out your immune system.
But there was no explanation. Brutal. There was no explanation as to why it went away. Because this is like when you really have to pee, and then all of a sudden you hold it for so long, and then the pee, and you don't have to go anymore. It's like, what happened?
Did I absorb it back in? Where did this go? Well, yeah, they couldn't explain it, but then he had other cancers that showed up, and then it weakened him, and then they were treating that, and then just this last January, finally, for several months, he was just losing energy more and more. It was just harder and harder for him to do anything. And then finally it just caught up with him.
Was there any warning with that in regards to this time, did you really know he was declining? And
no, I mean, he was just in ill health, but it just seemed like, it seemed like he had beat it, that the worst of it was over, that maybe he was going to be fine. And then, but no, he basically just, got up one morning to go to the bathroom and fell down and it was over.
So how did you process that? Because I feel like that's such a roller coaster of expectations, right?
Yeah, it was because you're expecting him to be gone, and then he's not, and then he's beat it, and then he's said it's back again, and then he's beat that, and then it's back again, and then it just this was sort of the same thing for 12 years. We were kind of going through this, and then to have that one moment where they say there's nothing else we can do, go home and die. And, it felt like, stoppage time in a soccer game. It was like, we don't know when it's going to be over. I mean, technically it is over.
Yeah.
But we're just kind of hanging on to see what happens.
Yeah, it's a weird limbo.
Yeah. And my niece, she's the one who found him.
Oh, no.
And she called me. I mean, the paramedics weren't even there yet. She called her mother, his wife first, then she called me, and then said, "Can you call everybody else?" Because she's like, I think she called me because I would know who everyone else to call, But she, when she said, she just goes, she's Uncle Rodney. My dad's dead. He's gone, and even though I've been prepared for it, it still just it hits you. It hits you hard.
Yeah, that's the thing. We kind of just talked about it pre-recording about, you've been down this road before in different paths, I suppose, of loss and grief. But it's once it hits you, it still hits you. But it's like, I just wonder, did you feel more equipped for it, or like, what do you feel having gone through loss before, especially this case where it was kind of anticipatory in many ways, like you knew it was coming, didn't know when. Is it the same process?
Well, yeah, for him, I think it was sort of like, there was the relief factor because, you knew that he's been through a lot of pain, a lot of difficulty for a long time. To finally have that over is nice. So you have that kind of a relief. It's like, it's like the anticipation of getting a shot is more terrifying than the actual shot.
Yes.
And I think that's what this was just the wait, just knowing it's going to be over, and then to finally have it be done. It was just, there's a relief, but at the same time, there's still the sting. Mm-hmm. You still have to deal with that. But
what was his perspective, like knowing he was going to die at some point, even though the timeline was scattered? Did you have conversations with him about where his?
Oh yeah, we talked. We talked many times, and he says, "Well," he goes, "I'm just, he would just sit and watch YouTube videos." He says, "I don't really have physical energy to go do much." He says, "When I do have energy, I go do something." He said he was an artist, and he would do stuff. But it was funny because he wouldn't do things for himself anymore. He was always doing art for somebody else.
Oh, that's nice.
And so when he had energy, he didn't want to waste it on himself.
Wow.
He wanted to do something that he could pass on to. In fact, this was the weirdest thing was for Christmas. I got delivered. Somebody sent me out of nowhere this pair of hiking shoes, this rainbow, multiple colors on. I mean, just funky tie-dye looking hiking boots, and I was just like, "This is." And it just showed up, and I had no idea where it came from, And when we were at the funeral, his wife Tammy is like, "So did you get some crazy looking shoes?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I did." And she goes, "Yeah, this is for Steven." I was just like, I had no idea.
Wait, your brother sent that and you received it after he died?
No, he sent them for Christmas just before he died.
Sorry.
So he sent something to every one of us, but he didn't tell us he was sending us. It was just anonymously we received these weird gifts.
That is brilliant. Oh my God, that's fantastic.
But apparently he had looked for it for a long time. He wanted, and part of his thing, this was funny, with his funeral, and I'd talked to him about this. He hated black. He hated going to funerals where everybody wears black.
And clearly with those rainbow colored shoes.
Yeah, so he wanted color. He wanted everybody to show up and wear color. Wear your favorite color. And so, I showed up with this bright red blazer, an
That's
orange
brilliant.
shirt, I think it was.
That's a nice little surprise there to find out. She told you at the funeral. Sorry, is that what she said?
She told me after the funeral, she says, hey, by the way.
That is, I mean, if there comes a moment where I know I'm dying, I'm sorry, but I'm taking your brother's style. I'm just sending random shit to everyone and then telling one person to notify who sent it. Yeah.
Well, and it was just, and now I'm like, it was such a ridiculous and silly gift, but it's like, I really appreciate this. I mean, it's one of my favorite things I've ever gotten.
Hell yeah. That's wonderful.
And here it was just the most random thing. And so he sent stuff to my other, our other brothers and my sisters.
So what does that impact to you? Because I know you kind of, you gave the analogy of it feels like a shot where there's that relief. But what do you remember feeling when he passed? Like what were you going through?
It was, I didn't expect myself to cry, but I did. And I think it was like, it's just that, it's ready, it's coming. Mm. And then when it hits you, it just, but there was that relief of just knowing that it was time. He got the chance to do his farewell tour. He got the chance to see everybody, let them know how he felt. Everybody got to have their opportunity to talk to him and share with him their feelings. And he got to, tie all of his loose ends and cover all of his bases. And
so, I mean, I don't love the word closure when it comes to grief or losing someone, because I'm not sure if there's ever closure. But is there closure in that sense? Like knowing he had the time, you had time with him, and he did what he wanted to do, and now he's gone. But like, is there a follow up?
Well, I think a good way to describe it is that like when you move someplace, and you got to clean out your space, you got to pack everything and move it, and clean everything up, and turn your keys in and get your deposit. There's a satisfaction in just knowing that it's all done. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? That you're leaving it as nice, if not better, than it was when you got there, and you're moving on. And it kind of has that feel like he had the opportunity to, clear everything. He didn't leave anything straggling. You know, everything was in the place where it needed to be, and he got to say goodbye to everybody. And it was, like I said, it still hurts, but at the same time, again, just know he's not in pain anymore because he just suffered for so long.
Yeah, I feel like knowing that everything's tidy, it kind of eliminates any feeling of regret or looking back towards I could have done this or that, which I'm sure is always there in some capacity. But to have like your everything all tidy and cleaned up like that, it makes moving forward easier, like you said, if it's all packed up. But it still hurts. Yeah, like you said, it's still I had a weird moment. I don't know, I'm kind of going off on a side tangent here. My friggin' mom. So I've brought it up a couple of times. She went to cardiac arrest last year, like a heart stop for like 10 minutes.
Oh dear.
I don't think we spoke about it, and she almost lost her, and we thought we were going to. I was flying to London, turned my phone on when I landed from LA to London, got a message from my sister, flew right back, and she was on a breathing tube. It was bad, and now she's great. She literally ran friggin' 4.5 miles the other day. So she's good. A year later, she's a savage. But she's always been like very, I think as a family in general, clearly I have this podcast, but we're very open to talking about death in many ways. My mom especially is a little bit more and more. It's like, if I pass away, don't worry, everything's in order. Don't mourn me, this or that. It's all good. Like, no, I love you. Yeah. And she had a couple of drinks last night in Jersey, literally 2 days ago. And she gets, my family's, even me, I guess, when alcohol hits the system, it's like tears. I don't know what it is. We get emotional. I don't know what's going on in the family. I was raised by women, so maybe that's what it is. But she came up to me the night before, and she's like, I had a couple drinks, but like if I drop dead tomorrow, she's like, don't get sad. Like, it's all good. She's like, give me one of those speeches. Yeah. And I've heard that before, and obviously I've contemplated heavier as my life's gone on with my dad, and then that experience last year. But today, ironically enough, I just had this I texted my mom as I usually do. So I texted her like, I love you. Just threw it out there. And I got in a weird place at the gym today just thinking like, oh man, like, you really need to, and kind of similar to your experience with your brother on the boat, like soaking that in. I wasn't with her today physically, but I was like, I just started going down a weird rabbit hole of, man, when she does go, like, I can't send these texts anymore. And it was like it wasn't sad, but it was just like a weird feeling in my gut that I can't explain. And it's a weird thing to think about that I feel like, I don't know if people put themselves there. I feel like as soon as that feeling comes, it hit the eject button. Like, I'm not going to think about that. But I like thinking about that because it makes me appreciate every text message I send. And it was just like I don't even know why I'm talking about this, to be honest. I guess it relates to the conversation of death, obviously, but it just makes the experience that you've gone through and have these experiences to be aware of the finite time we have with people, whether you know they're going to die or not. I think it's an important place to put because it got me emotional, but now every text message I send moving forward, like it packs more of a punch because of that awareness. Yeah. You know what I mean? That awareness that you have with your brother on that moment. In other situations, you and me, this might be the last time we get to see each other. Obviously, none of us are terminal, but I think that bringing that awareness of death just makes you more present. I think that is like, I hate saying a lesson of death, but that presence comes with the awareness of death.
Absolutely. That's probably the biggest thing I've gotten out of this is it's like, with all the things that we worry about, all the things that we have to be concerned with, with bills and dealing with difficult personalities at work or whatever, or family members who are kind of cantankerous, or just the world in general with the complete craziness that's going on. It's easy to get caught up in all that. But when you realize that, your life is an amazing gift, and all the people that you see in it, the good, bad, and the ugly, there's something to be gained from all of this.
Everything.
And when you are just in the moment, when you're not worried about the future, you're not concerned with the past, you're just right now in this moment. I'm here and I'm enjoying the moment for what it is, whether it's sadness. I mean, there's when we're mourning my brother, but at the same time, I'm celebrating my brother. It was like, I'm grateful that I got to be with him. I'm grateful that he was who he was. Mm-hmm. And then I got to spend the time with him. I mean, I'm grateful for that, And
I think that awareness is huge to be. I feel like sometimes the regret can be, like, I'm thinking about, like, down the road, when I lose someone, if I look back and be like, oh man, I didn't really soak. I feel like I wasn't sure if I soaked in those moments together. But if you can live presently with everyone you care about and you love, then when you do lose them, if you're not the first one to go, of course, it's like, I was present with them. I had those moments. Of course, I'm not perfectly present. There's moments I get distracted, but I try to pull it back. But I feel like if you can be present now in every moment, so when that does come, you're not going to look back and be like, I didn't appreciate those moments. So I did everything I could at that moment, and that's what it is. It's a part of the acceptance. It's all these mumbo jumbo words. I don't know. I've been in my feels lately. Like, I was walking around. Like, I left my my nephews the other night. I saw them playing. It was like 8 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night. They were playing basketball, kicking soccer balls at night. And I just like turned around. I turned around, just like looked at them. I was like, damn, like there's, hopefully I'm going to be in their lives for many, many more years to come. But it's like, damn, I'm going to look past them 10 years from now. They're going to be in college. And I just like looked at like the silhouette of them playing soccer right now. I was like, it was just so powerful. And I was like, it's not about how many listeners, this, that, and the other. It's just like that moment was more than anything. And it's like, those are the things in life that really, really matter. And it's like, it's like the Ferris Bueller quote, if you don't stop and like look around once in a while, it's going to go by. And we put so much emphasis on all these big grandiose moments. And at the end of the day, like, doesn't really, I'm not sure it matters.
Yeah.
What am I saying?
It doesn't. Well, something I've tried to incorporate now is that when I see somebody that I haven't seen in a while, my goal is to have at least a moment of real connection. And I achieve that by shaking their hand and staring into their eyes. Because we don't stare into people's eyes.
No.
We don't.
Now we are.
Yeah, now we are. And it's an amazing experience when you do that with somebody. And, if you haven't seen them for a long time, and you just, it's like I stop by and see my mother as often as I can because she's getting up in age and she's had some health scares. And so every opportunity I get, I stop to see my mother as I'm crossing the country. And I'm every time, instead of just, hug, oh, it's so good to see you, I stare into her eyes and just say, Mother, it's so good to see you.
That's a real thing. It's a real thing.
There's a way that you can say everything that needs to be said without saying a word when you just look someone in the eyes.
Yeah.
And just hold them, whether it's, holding their hand or their arm or hugging them. There's just everything that needs to be said is right there.
Yeah. It says everything without saying anything. And it's funny because I agree. People don't do that enough. I try to be good at that. And then whenever I do, most people, I guess it depends who it is. Some people like look at you even more, like, what are you looking at? I'm like, no, I'm just looking. Like, I feel like some people actually react uncomfortably to it for whatever reason. I also think that's the humanistic approach of like, what is going on? Like, what are they thinking about me? It's like, we create these stories, but sometimes it's like, no, I'm just looking at you. I say it all the time. So I'm happy you said that. And it's like, yeah, I'm just looking. There's really no intention. It's just kind of soaking it in. But what are they, like, the eyes are the gateway to the soul? It's like, there's something to this. It's in the eyes, Chico, as they say. It's like, it's a real thing.
It's like you're just saying to that person, I value you. Mm. I'm grateful that I know you. I'm grateful that you're part of my life.
Yeah.
And that's a simple thing. Everybody's like, oh, I don't know what to say. That's it. Just say, I'm grateful. Mm-hmm. To, when somebody's going through a difficult time, just say, hey, I'm sorry what you're going through, but I'm grateful for the opportunity. I have to be here for you if you need anything.
In your opinion, how do people find that gratefulness? Obviously, it's just an awareness, but like when someone's in the middle of the shit, and of course you can kind of fake it till you make it and say it. And I'm sure like even when you say sometimes I'm grateful, like you are grateful, but you're overwhelmed by the grief. You're overwhelmed by whatever you're going through. So it's hard to feel that gratefulness. Like how do you slow it down and feel gratefulness in a shitty situation? If that makes sense.
It's knowing that it's going to pass, that the crap of life is fleeting, just as our happy, joyous moments are. It's all fleeting. And, it's easy when we're in the moment that we get sad, we get upset. All of this is just fleeting. And so it's like, I think I like to express it that you can have two different opposing thoughts at the same time. We call it cognitive dissonance. I think you can also have emotional dissonance, where you have two different emotions at the same time. Because one, you have grief that someone's moved on, they've passed. You're never going to see them again in this life. But at the same time, the joy, the wonderful memories that you had with them. And you can have those things at the same time.
Yes.
And I think that's one thing that people feel conflicted about. I think we talked about this before, is that you feel like you have to keep grieving in order to prove that you love them. And it's like, no, being happy and moving on is an even better way to honor their memory.
I agree. And I think you can have those, I think you just said it, but like literally I've had moments where it's both at the exact moment, not even just kind of like, wish-washy, this or that, like at a long period of time. But again, going back to the experience of my mom, like I remember being in the hospital in the ICU, and it was terrible, but it was the most present I've ever been. And I was like oddly grateful in the moment, not knowing what was going to happen to my mom, but in that moment, being in the ICU with my sisters, Ken, my brother-in-law, whoever was there, it was like an odd happiness within a crappy situation. Okay, my mom might pass away right now, but we're all together. And it was, I don't know if it was like just trying to see the glass half full or whatnot, but it was a confliction of sadness, worry, concern, but also a contentful gratefulness in a horrible situation. So it's like, you can be wrong and right at the same time. You know what I mean? That you can have those moments. And I think the biggest thing you said, and we said before, is that guilt for being happy in these certain situations. But I think that's what life is. It is finding that joy in the shitty moments.
Yeah.
It's not easy. Because then
it's not.
Our brains get in the way of our own shit.
Because you start feeling, how dare you?
Yeah, exactly.
Be happy right now.
But again, it's like that. If once you start feeling happy, and it's like you're almost, okay, you're moving on and you're going further away from that person. But it's not really the case either. It's not the case either.
Yeah.
I forget what the exact words you said the last time. It was like it's finding that joy and living for that person, right? Or something of the sort.
Make them part of your journey. Make them part of your joy. Be happy for them, with them, you know.
And it takes time. It takes time. I think everyone, it's hard to put a time. I don't think you need to put a timeline on it. In the last episode I had, we kind of spoke about that. It's like, you don't have to put a timeline on it. But in my opinion, maybe my more hard-nosed approach, like at some point, you don't have to put like a date on it, but at some point you gotta make a decision to get better, whatever that means, or improve. You gotta make a choice where it's like, okay,
hey, I'm just gonna feel really bad for 3 days.
Yeah, whatever it is,
and move on. Or whatever months I'm gonna feel terrible until their birthday, their next birthday, and then I'll celebrate and move on. Whatever it takes.
And it puts the power of the choice is real. Like I think there's whenever this stuff happens to us, it's maybe how I just said it happened. It's not happening to us, perhaps it's happening around us. What's the right way to say it? But it is a choice, and again, it doesn't stop at that choice. You have to make it. Once you make a choice, I think is the first step, and then the work starts. But it is making that choice, and I think sometimes maybe people don't want to think of it as a choice because it puts the responsibility on you.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know if people want responsibility. So I think we avoid responsibility in many ways.
But once you make that choice, once you make that responsibility to be accountable to it, that's when you take assuming the power. Once you tell yourself that you have the power and you have the authority to react the way you want to have this affect you the way you want it to. That's really the big thing. When you decide that I'm not going to let this destroy me, I'm not going to let this drag me down. I'm going to be happy. I'm going to move on. It's enlightening.
Yeah, and back to what you said, how you said all the stuff we go through is fleeting and so is happiness. So it's like along that journey, it is important to realize, okay, that's like you said, that's fleeting too. I think that's a very big point. Even the happiness is fleeting. And I think I've talked about this a bunch of times, but happiness isn't consistent to me, but like contentment is, and peace in some ways.
Yeah.
So it's like, as long as you have that baseline and understand that through that process of healing, whatever word you want to use, it will be a rocky boat, but just understand that, and you're going to continue to get through that. And I think sometimes those moments where you don't feel good, those kind of get smaller a little bit. Like you might, whatever triggers you, whatever gets you feeling, whatever type way you may feel, that might last 3 days, but then next time you work through that, I'm like, okay, it might only last a day. Okay, it might only be a couple hours. And you start noticing that, I'm able to hit that switch a little faster and easier these times. And I think that's a sign of progress. But it's not always going to be, you're going to go through your shit. Even the happiest person in the world is going to have their moments. So absolutely. It's like, I think people are maybe chasing this consistent happiness and feel weird when they don't feel good. It's like, no, that's what this life is. This life is feeling the ups, feeling the peaks and the valleys. Yeah. And as shitty as it is sometimes, I think that's what makes it so exciting. Like I don't want to feel shitty, but like that's part of it. That's part of this whole journey.
Yeah, it
is. And sometimes you have to own that. And it's like, oh, maybe this is kind of, I'm feeling this. That's weird. What the hell does that feel like? Why? But you just ride through it. I don't know what else to say. It's not like a stoic point of view or anything, but it's just what are we doing? This is what we're doing.
This is it. This is it. What our existence is.
This is what, I don't know what it is, but this is what we're doing. But I appreciate you sharing that with your brother. I didn't know that. But you also mentioned you're going through some stuff with your daughter right now.
Yeah, this is, it seems like one has ended and now we begin again. My daughter had been complaining about pain in her back for quite a while. We'd taken her to the emergency room several times because of the pain, with doctors, chiropractors, everything. And the pain finally got to the point where she was just like, she just couldn't function. So her friend convinced her to go check herself into a hospital and really have some serious looking done. Mm-hmm. So she did. And I think at first they thought that it was just, it's all in her head, and that she was, they assumed that if you're got back pain consistently, that you're probably shopping for pain meds. Mm. And so they wouldn't give her anything. Well, so she had, going through all this pain. Nobody's coming up with answers. She's just in more and more pain. And they finally took her seriously, started looking into it and in x-raying her and doing MRIs to try to figure out where the back pain was coming from. they found what they thought was cancer. And, you go through, at first, there's always that it might be this, might be that. They're trying to be hopeful, but at the same time, they're trying to be realistic about what's going on. So they did biopsies, and then they did a more extensive MRI, and it turns out that it is cancer, and that it's in her ovaries, her uterus, her back, and her lungs. It's stage 4, and it's pretty aggressive. And as she's going through it all, it took several weeks, as it just in and out of different doctors and everything. And finally, she said, well, can you be on a phone call with my doctor? So he can tell you what's going on. I'm like, yeah. So I remember it was a Sunday morning, and the doctor got on there and said it, when you hear it specifically from the doctor, and you can tell in his voice that he's trying to be hopeful, but at the same time, he knows. He's been here before. He knows where this goes. And he tells us it's stage 4. It's aggressive. We have to start radiation as soon as possible. She's got to start chemo as soon as she can. And, it's just that moment of, here, I just buried my brother who had been through this for over a decade. That's one thing. But now it's my child. Now it's my girl. And to know that what that means, that even in the best case scenario, this usually doesn't end well. And to know that my daughter is already on that journey, it hit me. I don't think I've cried that hard since my son died. I mean, that was the last time I could think of it. It's just that, I got off the phone with him, and I'm talking to her, and all I could say is, I'm sorry. Because you do, you have that cliche, oh, I wish I could trade places with you. I really do. I would take this all from her, and I would go through it myself. But knowing I can't, it's like, what can we do? And I called her, and we cried with her for a minute and just said, well, we're here for you. We'll do whatever we got to. And I got off the phone. Of course, I was in Utah at this time, and she's back in Connecticut. And I told my wife, I says, well, whatever plans we had, we need to make changes because we have to go home. We have to go be with her. No, I can't. I'm not going to change. I mean, I don't have any magical powers that, being there is not going to solve anything. But I know what this journey is. And I know that before we had plausible deniability, it could just be this or that, and she'll be fine. But to officially come out and say, this is it. This is what we're doing to treat it. It hits you.
So what are you doing now? Like at this point, it's not a similar situation, but time could be limited, but you're not, I guess it's not concrete at this point.
Yeah, it's still, like I said, she's young, so that bodes well for her. But at the same time, the first session of chemo didn't work. They had to stop it because she was having breathing issues. She's, just the fact that she's having complications very early. But that's common with chemotherapy because it's just, it's going to affect everyone differently because, they literally are just, they're taking you to the brink of death,
What are these conversations with her at this point? Like, do you confront you?
We've had to, my wife is we packed up and just went home. That, we cut our plans short. I had to cancel a few things, and we just went back there and try to make her as comfortable as we can. She's got to come home for a few days, but that she wasn't. She really can't be left alone because she can't use the bathroom on her own. She's just really in a lot of pain and needs a lot of care, and she can't hold any food down for the most part. So it was like, well, so I had to take her back. My wife's there dealing with that. I had to come out here and do, life goes on. Still got bills to pay,
Of course.
So still got to work. So, so now it's just, it really is just one day at a time. We're looking to try to get her into a care facility because she really does need 24-hour care at this point. And just trying to be as positive as we can. And but we've had to sit down and have the conversation of where do you want to be buried?
How's she taking it?
She took it in stride. She's just like, we have the plot next to my son in Utah, and she's like,
How do you do that? How do you do this? I mean, 'cause you've already, as you said, you've lost your son, you recently lost your brother. You've been through it, and then obviously this is your child, so you're more concerned about how she's going through it, I'm sure. But you're still going through this. How do you, in regards to everything we just spoke about, and finding joy and gratefulness, how do you even navigate this shit? Because it's like, what are you going to find during this?
You know what? I look forward to the opportunities when I talk to her to make her laugh. To spend a little bit of time with her. And she's really weak, and she, a lot of times we go and sit there with her and she just falls asleep. And it's like, I don't, she's like, I'm sorry, I fall asleep. I said that I'm just happy to be here. You do whatever you got to do. If you're sleeping is making you feel better, for crying out loud, go to sleep. But don't stay awake and hurt yourself to make me happy. You just take it and you just move on. You just keep going, just knowing that this could be something that she beats in a few months, and she's goes in total remission and lives a long, healthy life. Or she might be rounded third. You don't know.
What is that balancing act? I mean, it goes back to having that realistic conversation, but also being optimistic. But is there such thing as being overly optimistic in a situation like this, or don't you want to run that?
I think it's just being realistic. It's just knowing that, right now the only thing that's important is that she gets better. Whatever it takes to help her get through this, that's all that matters. You know what I mean?
Is that helping you? Just making her your focus? Like, does that help your process? And again, it's a weird thing when, someone is going through cancer like that, and they're the ones really going through the ringer, but obviously it affects you. You're the parent. You're the father. So like, what's helping you?
Yeah, you don't want to see your child suffer. I mean, it's just, you don't.
It's like the worst thing.
Yeah, and you feel hopeless. You feel, like there's nothing I can do. As much as I can, I want to do something. I think it was funny. We were sitting in her hotel room, and she has this big bag of stuff that people keep bringing her things, and the plants and flowers. And everybody wants to give her something. And I understand that because they feel like they need to do something. They want to do something. And, and it's funny because you could tell, I think she's a very, very emotionally intelligent person. And so she sees that people need to give her things. They have a need to do something. And she's been very gracious, and she's like, yes, whatever. Because she understands that it's not really to make her feel better, because there's really nothing anybody could do.
Yeah.
But if she's giving other people the opportunity to feel like they're doing something, because they feel like they want to do something, but they don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. So flowers and plants and whatever. She's like,
just let him do it.
Just let him do it.
Like, this doesn't do anything for me, but
she's very gracious about it. And she's an artist. She's just like my brother was. She's a great artist, and so she likes to draw and do color and
Do you guys have any, like, what about the future? Like, I guess not the future, but kind of the future in regards to, do you have a spiritual discussion with her? Or is that something that you guys don't really talk about in regards to anything you believe in after? Is there any comfort?
You know, she was raised in our faith, but she's fallen away from it. She's gone
during this, like specifically, like is she fallen away from that during this specific experience? That's caused
before. You know, she's gone her own way, and we always told the kids, "It says we're not going to force you to do anything. If you want to come to church with us and hear what we have, we're happy to have you. But it's your life. I mean, it's you do whatever you want with it." And she chose a different path, and never faulted her for it. You know, because we're all on our own journey.
Yeah.
And we haven't really had the chance to really talk about it, what goes on in, you know, what's going on in her mind in that regards.
How important it is to have these conversations as opposed to just being there? Like,
it's, you know, it's not as important as you think it is. I think the more important is just knowing that she's loved and that she's cared for and that we're here for her.
Yeah.
That's all that matters to me right now, you know.
Just throwing your hands up.
Yeah, I mean, because, you know, sitting there and, you know, preaching to her and, you know, you have this thing of, well, I told you so attitude. And I don't like that at all. I don't feel that way, you know. It's a strange thing. It's like if she wants to talk about it, I'd be happy to, but I don't want to push that on her.
Yeah.
She's got too much to worry about now, whether or not, you know, I don't ever want her to feel like she's disappointed me because she's chosen a different path than me, because I'm not disappointed. In fact, I'm if anything, I'm proud of her to be strong enough in her convictions that she is pursuing what she believes. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm more excited about that she's, you know, she is thinking on her own and she's living her own life. I'm more thrilled about that than I am don't try to just make me happy. Mm-hmm. Don't live your life trying to do what you think I want you to do. I don't want that kind of, I can't even figure out what I'm doing for myself. Yeah. I'll try to run your life too. You know, I'm excited to see my kids growing and experiencing. I think that's the thing that hurts the most, is just seeing her sidelined to some degree from living the life that she wants to live.
Have you told her this?
You know, I haven't. I guess I really need to. I mean, usually when we're sitting there, we're talking about, you know, bowel movements and and getting a nurse, and
it's a little hard.
Yeah, you're talking about, you know, that kind of stuff. I think, I guess to some degree you kind of want to avoid those conversations because it becomes too real.
Yeah, and that's the balancing act. Like I was just inquiring about, because I do feel like sometimes you don't have to talk about it. You know, even though you don't have to talk about certain things and just be present. But at the same time, kind of going back to what you were saying, her allowing other people to go through these motions to maybe make them feel better, hoping to make her feel better. It's like maybe you need the same thing. That's not advice or anything. I'm just pointing it out.
No,
you know what I mean?
I think no, that makes a lot of sense.
And I hope that comes out the right way. You know, I'm just we're just talking here, but just based on what you just said, it sounds like you haven't told her that, and I'm sure she already knows. But
yeah, I mean, we've always, you know, been very supportive of her, and
of course, I'm sure.
You know, and I've never wanted her to feel like somehow she's disappointed me, because I think she thinks that I'm disappointed in her.
Where does that insight come? Like, what gives you that feeling?
I don't know. I don't know. I guess that's a conversation I need to have with her.
Yeah, definitely not with me.
She needs to know that I do love her and care about her, and that I'm proud of her.
It's interesting. So a couple episodes ago, I spoke to Phil Lister and his wife Elena, and Phil passed right before the episode was released. He knew he was passing, and that was one of the things he said. So this is a little bit flipped because it's your daughter, but one of the things he's like, I just want to make sure my children know how much I love them and how proud I am of them. And that really moved me, because it was like, even Elena, his wife, was like, they know, but she also said, but it's different when you say it. Like, even though like there's a knowingness amongst each other, like we love each other, but you know, the words carry a weight to it. And this is a different scenario, of course, but you know, you could always speculate and think this or the other, but you could say it. And, you know, you find your own time for that, and I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but you're a much smarter man than I am, and have had your own experiences. So trust yourself, and that was just my 2 cents to put it in one ear and take it out the other. But you know, maybe that's something to do.
No, I appreciate it, because you know, even though you can be, you know, you can write books and you do lectures and talk and everything, all that's out the window when it's right there in front of you.
Ain't nothing like the real thing.
Yeah.
And that's the complicated part, because it's like you can go through everything and it doesn't make these events easier. It's still life, but
yeah,
you are more equipped to at least contemplate it differently. You know, like I'm sure if you haven't gone through what you've gone through, you might be handling this different. I'm just going to suck either way. But you know, you guys have gone through a lot, and you're incredibly emotionally aware besides just your intelligence in general. So you are more equipped than most people to be processing this. But yeah, once you go through it, it's like you still have to figure it out all over again. You're just a little bit better equipped to contemplate it and work through it, I think.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it easier. But you know, I appreciate you telling me that, because you're going through it right now.
Yeah. You know, I'll be honest with you, when I contacted you about doing this again, being out here, it's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to be there. The time's right. But it's like, no, I really need this.
Good. That's amazing. And I feel like, you know, it's interesting, because like, again, back to my mom, when she was saying, if I drop dead, don't worry about it. I was like, and I said this in there, like, if I drop dead, you don't worry about it. She's like, no, don't even fucking say that, because the child dynamic, you know, man, what you're going through is, the child thing is just, I might put it in a hierarchy, but I don't know. You've already gone through it, and it's wordless. Mm-hmm. There's no words. And none of my words are going to make anything better. But if this is making you feel better in a capacity of just having the opportunity to share it, then I'm glad. Because, you know, as much as you're looking after your daughter and your concerns there, you still got you know. So say what you need to say, do what you need to do, and just trust yourself. And if this makes you feel any better, I'm glad.
It does. Good.
Was there anything else you want to say?
Just, you know what? I love and appreciate you for what you're doing, man. This podcast is amazing. I think you're really doing something special with this. And thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm doing my best, but as I always say, it wouldn't be anything without you sitting across from me and being willing to talk about this, because, you know, I don't know how many people that are going through a situation unique to their own with their child or vice versa, siblings, whatever. This is what it is. You know, it's important to have these discussions. Like I said, maybe you don't always have to say, sometimes better not to talk, but by you talking, I'm glad to say it helped you in some capacity, but you're helping other people as well. So it's cool to see your work and your comedy and whatnot. And then this shows, it's weird. It shows a different side of you, but also the same side of you, because you kind of you exude this same philosophy in your comedy, which makes it so great. But I love seeing this side of you face to face. I get a chance to fucking meet you, which is awesome. But you're, I don't know. Your words always resonated with me when the first time we spoke. And so I'm very blessed to have you do this again. And I'm sure you'll be on again in the future. Doors always open. So I just want to thank you more importantly.
Well, thank you.
And for anyone, it's always a terrible transition, but if there's anything you want to drop, as usual, if you want to find more on Rodney, which I'm sure a lot of you already know of him, but I'll drop all his links and whatnot in the description. You can continue following him and hopefully catch a show. But if there's any last words, as they say, that you would like to drop before we get out of here, feel free, if at all.
Love every moment of this life. Like I said, the good, the bad, the ugly. Just take it all in and just enjoy it.
Amen. I'm sending love to you and your family and your daughter, for real.
Thank you.
And another episode of Dead Talks, guys. Appreciate you tuning in. And we had a couple technical difficulties, so we'll get through that if you made it this far. And until next time, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Dead Talks. Please do not forget to hit the subscribe button and also the notification bell. That'll give you updates as to when we post a new video, more episodes, and more content in general. We are streaming on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and all that. And also find us on Instagram at Dead Talks Podcast or www.deadtalks.net. Thank you so much.